Have you ever met a woman who walks into a room and you can feel her loneliness before she even speaks? She's beautiful, not necessarily in the way that magazines describe beauty, but in the way that broken glass catches light. People admire her strength. They call her independent. They say, she doesn't need anyone. But when the lights go off and the world goes quiet, she's just a woman with no friend. They call it independence. But if you look closely, really look, you will see that for many women, independence is not freedom. It's a scar that healed over the wound of abandonment. From the outside, she looks powerful. She pays her own bills. She takes herself out to dinner. She builds her career. She walks with a confidence that makes people whisper, she doesn't need anyone. And they're right, she doesn't need anyone. But that's not because she's whole. It's because she stopped believing anyone would show up for her. We live in a world that tells women to be strong, to be unbreakable, to be self-reliant. But no one tells them that sometimes strength is just another form of fear. Fear of needing, fear of asking, fear of trusting. The illusion of independence is seductive. It makes us feel safe. When you've been betrayed, or dismissed, or made to feel small, independence becomes the armor that says, no one can hurt me now. But armor, no matter how shiny, is still heavy. Think about the woman who works 12 hours a day, not because she loves her job, but because she can't bear the silence of an empty home. Think about the woman who tells everyone she loves being single, but cries quietly when she sees two people holding hands. Think about the woman who says she doesn't need help, yet her body aches from carrying everything alone. These are not stories of empowerment. They are stories of exhaustion. There's a woman who fixes her own car, paints her own walls, books her own holidays. She posts pictures captioned, "Just me and my peace." But what people don't see is the part of her that watches families at the airport and feels something twist inside her chest. She tells herself she's fine. She repeats it until it sounds true. But late at night, when the world softens and she can't lie to herself anymore, she whispers, "I wish someone cared enough to ask how I'm doing." Independence has become the language of survival, but survival is not the same as living. Living means allowing ourselves to be held, to be helped, to be known. It means daring to need. But many women have learned that need equals danger. Because once upon a time, when they reached out, the hands they trusted let them fall. Maybe it started young. A father who wasn't there, a mother who was too busy surviving her own pain. Maybe it was a friend who turned her secrets into gossip. Maybe it was a lover who called her too much. Somewhere along the line, she decided, I'm safer alone. So she built a castle out of self-reliance. She locked the gates and threw away the key, and the world applauded her for it. But here's the truth, no one tells you independence is not the pinnacle of evolution. It is often the proof of past wounding. The human soul is not designed for isolation. We are not islands, we are ecosystems. We breathe in each other's presence. Our nervous systems regulate when we are seen, touched, heard. That's why a hug can calm panic. That's why a shared laugh can heal a bad day. But the woman who's been hurt learns to go without those things. She tells herself, I'm enough for me. And while self-love is sacred, it is not meant to replace connection. It is meant to prepare us for it. Every time she says, I don't need anyone, a small part of her heart tightens. Because deep down she does. We all do. It's the most human thing in the world. Imagine a garden with tall, proud trees. From a distance, they look independent, each standing strong. But underneath the soil, their roots are intertwined, sharing water, nutrients, even signals of danger. That's what true strength looks like: connectedness, not separation. In daily life, the illusion of independence shows up in subtle ways. The woman who refuses help moving furniture because she doesn't want to bother anyone. The mother who never asks for a break because good mom handles it all. The friend who never talks about her sadness because everyone has their own problems. And the tragedy is, the more she pretends she doesn't need others, the more the world believes her. People stop offering help. They stop checking in. They assume she's fine. She's not fine. She's lonely. There's a moment that happens, sometimes, when this illusion starts to crack. It might be during a quiet drive home, or when she gets sick and there's no one to bring her soup, or when she receives good news and realizes she has no one to tell. That moment hurts, but it's also sacred, because it's the moment the heart begins to wake up. It whispers, maybe I don't want to do this all alone anymore. That whisper is not weakness. It's truth. It's the soul remembering its nature, to belong, to be loved, to share life. To the woman living behind the mask of independence, I want to say this: you are allowed to be strong and to need help. You are allowed to be capable and to want comfort. You are allowed to have built walls and to want them softened by love. Strength is not about doing everything alone. Strength is about having the courage to admit that you can't and shouldn't do everything alone. The illusion of independence crumbles the moment you realize that asking for help is not surrender. It's sacred intimacy. It's saying, I trust that I'm not a burden. I trust that someone cares. And when you finally let someone in, when you allow another human being to carry even a fraction of your weight, you discover that you were never weak for needing. You were only ever human, because independence might protect you, but interdependence, the courage to connect, will heal you. It's the quiet ache that hums underneath the noise of modern life. It's the shadow that follows us through crowded rooms, glowing screens, and busy schedules. We like to pretend it doesn't exist. We fill our calendars. We scroll, we post, we reply with laughing emojis. And yet, when the phone goes dark and the laughter fades, there's that familiar emptiness. The hollow echo of being surrounded, but unseen. This is the hidden epidemic of our time. Not poverty, not war, but disconnection. You can be in a room full of people who know your name and still feel invisible. You can sleep beside someone every night and still feel utterly alone. Because loneliness is not a lack of company, it's a lack of resonance. Resonance is that deep, unspoken harmony that happens when someone doesn't just hear your words, they feel them. It's the moment when another soul recognizes yours and says, I understand. But we live in a world that has forgotten how to understand. We talk more than ever, but we don't listen. We connect faster than ever, but we rarely connect deeply. We've traded conversations for content and attention for validation. You can post your heart online, pour out your fears, your hopes, your truth, and still feel empty afterward. Because hearts don't sink through likes. They sink through presence. Presence is a dying art. People are everywhere and nowhere all at once. At dinner tables, eyes glow blue from screens. In cafes, people talk, but their minds drift elsewhere. We have mastered the art of being around each other without truly being with each other. And so, people start to shrink. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from sharing something real? A fear, a struggle, a strange thought. Because you sense the other person wasn't really there. Maybe they nodded politely. Maybe they said, "Oh yeah, same," and went back to their phone. Every time that happens, something inside you whispers, it's safer to stay quiet. And that's how loneliness grows. Not in one big heartbreak, but in thousands of tiny moments where we reach out and no one really reaches back. I once knew a woman who hosted parties almost every weekend. Her home was always full of laughter, music, and people. She was the life of every gathering. But one night, she told me, "I've never felt so alone in my life." Because none of those people really knew her. They loved her energy, her humor, her presence, but not her truth. Not the nights she cried herself to sleep, or the fear that she wasn't enough, or the pain she carried behind her smile. That's what loneliness looks like in our time. 1,000 masks smiling through silent pain. We've confused visibility with connection. Just because people see us doesn't mean they feel us. And part of the reason we don't feel each other anymore is because we've become afraid of emotion. We treat feelings like inconveniences. We rush people through their sadness with phrases like, "Don't cry," or "Stay positive." We call vulnerability drama. We call authenticity oversharing. So we all wear our masks, calm, successful, happy, while our souls starve for something real. And here's the truth. Loneliness doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your soul is longing for resonance, for people who speak your language without words, who can hold silence without fear, who can look at you and see past the performance. Think about music. A single note is just a sound, but when another note vibrates at the same frequency, they resonate, and that resonance creates harmony. That's what the soul longs for, harmony. You don't need 100 people. You need a few who make your heart exhale, the kind of people you can sit beside without speaking and still feel seen. But to find that, you must first be willing to show yourself. Because how can anyone resonate with you if all they ever meet is your mask? We've been taught to curate our lives, to show the highlight reel and hide the heartbreak. But resonance doesn't happen in perfection. It happens in honesty. You'll never find real connection while pretending to be fine. The moment you say, "Actually, I'm not okay," that's when the real ones reveal themselves. That's when you give others permission to take off their masks too. Sometimes we're surrounded by people who love the idea of us, but not the truth of us. The woman who's always strong, the man who's always easygoing, the friend who's always there for everyone else. They're adored for their roles, not for their reality. But the moment you begin to live in truth, resonance will find you. It always does. It might start with one person, someone who listens differently, who doesn't rush to fix you, who holds space for your silence. That's resonance. That's healing. And as you start to live more truthfully, you'll begin to attract more of it. People who match your energy, your depth, your frequency. You won't have to chase connection anymore. It will rise to meet you. Because loneliness isn't a punishment. It's a signal. Your soul saying, "I'm done with surfaces. I want something real." So when you feel lonely, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't numb it with distractions. Sit with it. Listen. Because loneliness, when you truly hear it, will guide you home, not to a crowd, but to resonance. And one day, when you meet someone whose eyes say, "I see you," you'll realize that loneliness was never emptiness. It was preparation. The sacred longing that led you back to what you've been searching for all along. Connection that feels like home. Life is always speaking to us, but rarely do we realize it. Every person we meet, every relationship we struggle with, every silence we endure, they are all mirrors, reflecting back the relationship we have with ourselves. The woman who feels unseen often does not truly see herself. The man who feels unheard often does not listen to his own emotions. The one who feels abandoned has often abandoned the parts of themselves that are too painful to hold. It sounds simple, almost poetic, until life begins to show it to you. Through people, through conflict, through loneliness. Because the outer world is never random. It's a projection of your inner landscape, a reflection of your own energy. You attract not what you want, but what you are willing to face. Think about it. The woman who constantly finds herself surrounded by people who take advantage of her kindness is not cursed. She is being shown where her own self-worth has been neglected. Life is not punishing her. It's revealing to her where she needs to rise. Imagine you are standing in front of a mirror, and you notice there's a smudge on your face. You wouldn't reach forward to try to wipe the mirror clean. You'd touch your own face. Yet that's exactly what we do in relationships. We try to fix the reflection instead of understanding what it's showing us. We get angry at the friend who doesn't value our time, instead of asking ourselves, do I value mine? We get hurt by the lover who won't commit, instead of asking, where have I not fully committed to myself? We get disappointed by the world's coldness, yet we ignore the places within where we've become numb. The world mirrors you, not to blame you, but to awaken you. There's a story about a woman who kept falling in love with emotionally unavailable men. Each time, it ended in heartbreak. Each time, she said, why do I keep attracting people who can't love me back? But when she finally stopped running from her own truth, she realized she too was emotionally unavailable. She wanted love, but she feared intimacy. She wanted closeness, but she was terrified of being known. So she attracted mirrors, not soulmates, mirrors that showed her the distance she kept within herself. That's the secret life tries to teach us. Every relationship is a spiritual classroom. Every person we meet is a teacher wearing the costume of friend, partner, family, or stranger. When someone criticizes you harshly, life asks you, where do you speak to yourself this way? When someone ignores your boundaries, life asks, where are you ignoring your own? When someone leaves without warning, life whispers, where have you been abandoning yourself emotionally? The outer world is your inner dialogue, turned outward so you can finally hear it. But we live most of our lives trying to change the mirror. We argue with it, fight with it, blame it, and yet when we finally pause and look deeper, we find that the very thing we crave from others is the thing we have not yet given ourselves. We want love, but we don't treat ourselves lovingly. We want truth, but we hide our feelings. We want loyalty, but we betray our own intuition just to keep people close. And then we wonder why the world feels cold. There's a woman I once spoke to who said, no one ever listens to me. And I asked her gently, when you speak to yourself, when your body aches, when your heart cries, do you listen? She fell silent because she knew the answer. When you begin to listen to yourself, truly listen, the world starts to echo that back. People who disregard your voice will quietly fade away, and new ones will appear who value your truth, because the mirror changes when you do. This is the power of awareness. You don't need to chase better relationships. You need to create a better relationship with yourself, and life will rearrange to match it. When you learn to honor your emotions, you'll meet people who do the same. When you stop betraying your intuition, you'll attract those who move in honesty. When you fall deeply in love with your own company, you'll find connection that feels like harmony, not hunger. But the mirror works both ways. When you judge yourself, you'll feel judged by others. When you abandon your feelings, others will abandon you. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they're reflecting what's already happening inside you. The moment you understand this, life stops feeling cruel and starts feeling intelligent. Every experience, even the painful ones, becomes sacred feedback. You realize that the friend who betrayed you wasn't punishment, she was revelation. The breakup that shattered you wasn't the end, It was a mirror showing you where you'd lost yourself in another. The loneliness you feel isn't emptiness. It's your soul saying, "Come home to me." And when you finally do, when you reconnect with your inner self, the outer world softens. People begin to respond differently. Opportunities appear. Love begins to feel safe again. Because the mirror now reflects wholeness instead of fragmentation. You become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because authenticity always attracts authenticity. The truth is, healing your relationship with yourself changes everything, not just within you, but around you. You no longer chase love, because you are love. You no longer seek validation, because you see yourself clearly. You no longer fear loneliness, because the reflection staring back at you finally feels like home. So when the world feels unkind or disconnected, pause. Don't rush to change others. Ask yourself gently, what in me is being shown right now? And in that moment of honesty, the mirror shifts, because the outer world doesn't need to love you first. It's waiting for you to love yourself enough to see that it always has.